Burby's 99.5 FM. Kaieteur Radio.
Good day. Welcome to your news at noon on Kaieteur Radio. I'm Kevin Smith. ExxonMobil Corporation's fifth project at the Uaru Mako field, which holds over 1.3 billion barrels of oil in the Stabroek Block, is expected to cost Guyana over $2.6 trillion, or $12 billion US dollars. Project details for the latest venture by Exxon's subsidiary, ESSO, are currently under review by the Environmental Protection Agency. The Environmental Impact Assessment states that the Uaru Development Project will develop the Uaru, Mako, and Snoek oil-rich fields with the potential to develop other resources within the license area. A preliminary schedule anticipates that FPSO and other fabrication and installation works will begin in 2024, following the completion of engineering, and will take approximately 3 years. Development well drilling may also occur during this period. Production operations are expected to begin in 2027 and will continue for at least 20 years. The Environmental Impact Assessment conducted by Acorn International, the consultant hired by ExxonMobil, has cautioned that not only will marine fish be affected by the degraded water quality within the fifth offshore project site, but fishermen who ply their trade there will also be forced to find new grounds to accommodate the operation. The study, which was made public on Sunday on the EPA's website, indicated that the project might impact marine fish due to the degradation of water quality as a result of the permitted vessel discharges. Those discharges include produced water, ballast water, and sewage, among others. In addition, the consultant noted that the equipment used offshore also has the potential to estrange or suck in fish. And in other news, the International Labour Organization, or ILO, in its December 2022 study, emphasized that Guyana's oil and gas industry is moving too fast for the country's limited skilled workforce. We had reported that while Guyana's oil resources have placed it among the top petroleum producers in the world, the country's lack of technical expertise and workforce capacity continues to be a bugbear. Despite this, the government earlier this year gave ExxonMobil the green light for the fourth project, the $10 billion US Yellowtail development, and Vice President Bara Jagdeo has been pushing for oil companies to go faster. While the government is persistent in accelerating the industry, the organization's report states that such a move can end badly for Guyana. The accelerated expansion of the oil and gas operations has exposed a pronounced gap between the industry's labor demand and the availability of skilled workers at the local level, the ILO said. To this end, it was stated that if the gap is not addressed, the latter will likely slow down the growth of the sector and of the whole economy, or at the very least, generate inefficiencies in the level of performance and for the economy. And moving on. As Guyana continues its accelerated agenda in the oil and gas industry, petroleum engineer and former head of the Environmental Protection Agency, Dr. Vincent Adams, has pointed out the need for more Guyanese to add their voices to the call for better management practices. Dr. Adams reasoned that while the political opposition has been vocal on accountability issues in the oil sector and other industries, it is more important for members of civil society to also speak out. He said that there is a fear that retribution will follow if people start to speak out for the good of the country, not only in the public sector but even those employed in private organizations. The petroleum engineer warned that it is critical for Guyanese to stand up now, as the oil and gas sector can affect thousands of livelihoods in the years to come. And just before we head to a short break, Australia's senior minister with responsibility for finance, Dr. Ashni Singh, announced yesterday that the national budget for 2023, which will feature another multi-million-dollar infusion of oil revenues, will be unveiled on Monday, January 16th. Dr. Singh said over the last several months, he and his team have been meeting and consulting with various stakeholders, including the private sector, government ministries, other agencies, and civil society. As with Budget 2022, this year's budget is expected to see critical development programs for government being fast-tracked and many more expanded to reflect government's continued transformational agenda for the country, which has been taking it forward at a rapid pace. And of course, you're listening to Kaieteur Radio. This is your news at noon. We return shortly after the break.
Child sexual abuse can stay with a person for life. It can rob them of their childhood. It's an unforgivable, unforgettable, despicable act. And yet, children suffer this abuse every day. During these times, we must keep a watch out for children. If you suspect child abuse, report it to the police without delay or call the CPA hotline on 227-0979. Protect children now.
A message from the Child Care and Protection Agency, Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, and UNICEF.
This is GHK Lal inviting you to join me weekdays from Monday to Friday on the National Outlook for commentary on a range of issues. Immediately after the 12 noon and 7 p.m. newscasts on Kaieteur Radio at 99.1 FM and 99.5 FM. Looking forward to you sharing in the conversation.
Welcome back. A 33-year-old laborer, Roy Charles, called Skittle of Leopold Street, was on Monday morning gunned down while walking on Durban Street, Working-Rust, Georgetown. He was shot 12 times around 11 hours 30. Charles and another man were reportedly going to purchase alcohol when the shooting occurred. The shooter sped off in a car that turned north into Smythe Street and escaped. Investigations are ongoing. 28-year-old Brian Pittem, popularly known as DJ Viper, a former employee of Kaieteur Radio, was on Sunday night chopped to death during a fight at a bar located at Laluni Village on the Soos-Linden Highway around 21 hours. Police reported that Pittem was attending a birthday party along with his father-in-law, a 51-year-old truck driver. It was stated that Pittem was drinking at the shop when the three suspects confronted his father-in-law and dealt him a lash to his face. As such, Pittem intervened and was dealt several chops about his body before the trio rode off on motorcycles. Police arrested one of the suspects in connection with Pittem's murder, while the manhunt continues for the other two. Meanwhile, the body of an 18-year-old Linden Technical Institute student, identified as Cam Thomas of Central Amelius Ward, Linden, was recovered from the Kaieteur Blue Lake by divers. Thomas was suspected to have drowned on Sunday between 16 hours 20 and 16 hours 46 while at the lake with a group of friends. According to police, the victim and 4 friends had left to go swimming at the popular Blue Lake. One of the friends related to police that Thomas went into the water and started swimming from the eastern to the western side. The 20-year-old friend further relayed that he observed Thomas submerged under the water when they were about 20 feet from the eastern shore. He attempted to rescue Thomas, but was unsuccessful. The incident renewed calls for persons to be careful while using the lake for recreational purposes without the necessary protection, such as lifeguards. And to wrap things up, Enrique Livan, the Jacob staffer who was fingered in removing a flash drive and a computer with voter information, refused to testify when he appeared before the ongoing elections inquiry on Monday. Livan, an IT technician attached to GCOM, was also implicated in allegedly doctoring votes for District 4 during the March 2020 elections. His lawyer, UC Anderson, told the commission that because his client is before the courts on criminal charges related to the elections, the commission should be reminded that he has the right not to potentially implicate himself in the inquiry. Retired Justice of Appeal of Turks and Caicos, Stanley John, who chairs the Presidential Commission of Inquiry into the elections, acknowledged Livin's right to silence. Commission and former Chancellor of the Judiciary for Guyana, Carl Singh, however, told Livin that the inquiry has evidence before it that he has been identified in certain events at the Ashman's building on March 5th, 2020. And at this time, we close things off, as usual, by turning the pages of today's Kaieteur News to page 7, of course dedicated to being blunt. A bag of guns. Imagine that. A man is walking in broad daylight with a bag of guns. The police say serious crimes are down, but there is a man with 2 machine guns in a bag. Guns loaded with live ammunition. Guns that can take out a lot of citizens. Serious crimes are sharply down. How do those 2 machine guns in a bag count? And on that note, we wrap things up for your news at noon. I'm Kevin Smith. Thank you for joining me. And of course, stay tuned to Kaieteur Radio.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching hundreds of thousands. Advertise today and watch your dollar grow. Call us on 225-8465 or 226-8210 today.
It is Tuesday, January 10th. Welcome to Kaieteur Radio 99.1 and 99.5 FM. I'm GHK Lal on the National Outlook. EPA ignores law, gives own reason for waiving EIA on gas plant. Here we go again with the EPA. Here we go again with this whole Wales complex of pipelines and plants, natural gas liquids plant, power plant for the GPL, the conversion, and the pipelines bringing the gas from 120 miles offshore. Look, again and again, I have to make something clear, very clear. I want cheap electricity. All of us would like that. And all of us would like a reliable supply of cheap electricity, cheap energy, so our little businesses and big businesses can function efficiently, competitively, so our homes can be a place of joy, because our fridges and our appliances and our lights are on and our children can study and we can read and watch television and do whatever we want. In an oil-rich country, one of the top ones in the world, according to the statistics, we should have that. So I would like to have, I repeat, I would like to have a viable Wales gas to shore project, all of it, natural gas, liquid plants, and the power plant. But we've got to do it right. We've got to do the studies. We've got to do all the studies that are required. But here we have the Environmental Protection Agency saying that we don't need an EIA, an Environmental Impact Assessment, for the power plant. As far as I'm concerned, the EPA is being cute. It's being clever. And what do I mean by that? It is saying that a group called Environmental Resource Management from Texas did a cumulative study. It did a study of the pipeline and the natural gas liquid plant
and the power plant. Okay, what the EPA is not saying is that the people who did that EIA study, the combined one, the cumulative one as they call it, went out of their way to say that the power plant, a separate environmental impact assessment should be done. I repeat, a separate environmental impact assessment should be done. Air quality, economics, climate change, impact on humans, impact on flora and fauna, that's animal and plant life. These are complex things. They are not frivolous, but yet we have the EPA, among the more sensitive national state agencies, dealing with these things very casually and say, no, we don't need one. No, we don't need one over there. We don't need one. Where do we need an EIA? If we look at the history of the EPA in recent times, in the last 2.5 years, almost always it says you don't need an EIA. In Friendship, in Houston, now in Wales. Does the EPA really know what it does? Does the EPA people really have an appreciation for the very, very crucial role, critical role that it has in its hands? It's to protect you and I. It's to protect our environment and to protect our future. Instead, what we have is the EPA making all kinds of excuses to justify not doing environmental impact assessments, EIAs. How can that be right? How can that be helpful? My sisters and brothers, how can that be protective of you and our children? I'm GHK Lal on Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 and 99.5 FM. Thank you for listening to the National Outlook.